I'm a special one.
Decide I was right.
Hello and welcome back to OmniFoot TV. This is your host Omar speaking, and tonight's video is going to be a recap of the Egypt and Algeria game. Now before I go into this, I would like to clarify and just emphasize that the Egypt and Algeria rivalry is perhaps one of, if not the most important rivalry to me as a football fan. Now the reason I had to stop for a second there was because I had a flashback. I'm going to set the stage. Cairo International Stadium, November of 2009. That was perhaps my first proper exposure to this rivalry. Egypt had to win by 3 goals in order to make it to the 2010 FIFA World Cup. I wanted to make a separate video about this game, but I'm going to have to include it in this one to an extent. Now, that game ended 2-0, and it allowed a playoff to take place that we ultimately lost. But the point being, that game at Cairo International Stadium was the most intense I've ever lived to see. The goals, the reactions. I simply cannot begin to express how wild they were, how wild that game was, how wild the atmosphere was. It is unlike anything I have ever seen at any major tournament, and it was a World Cup qualifier. Fast forward over 10 years later, and we meet in the Arab Cup. Obviously, the one thing I'd like to point out first is that most of the players on the pitch were young enough to have watched the game that I'm talking about. And it blows my mind that they must have felt exactly as I did for either of their national teams and gone out there with the shirts on to make a difference in this rivalry. That, to me, in and of itself, is huge. Imagine just being told that you are about to feature in the starting 11 for your national team in one of the biggest African and football derbies of all time. It's gotta measure up, with some of the best pieces of news you could receive as a player. Anyways, into the game. I'd like to first highlight the work that Carlos Queiroz has done with the national team. I made a separate video talking about my admiration and respect for the man. And I can't help but echo that sentiment out once again, because he has done such a brilliant job in almost 2 months at the helm. He's given the Egyptian national team actual personality. He's been brave with a lot of his choices. He's made some very, very big decisions. I think the way that he handled the game, managing to adapt to 2 early injuries in the first half by bringing on the right players at the right time, all while maintaining his composure, mind you, in perhaps the most tense game he's seen yet. I think that's just a sentiment to how cool the man is. He's just very composed, very credible. He just looks credible on the touchline. He looks to be in control. And the players are starting to receive or be receptive of what he's trying to show them. I mean, before, when we had, I'm not even going to mention his name, but our previous manager was quite the stump. And if you look at the difference on display, in such a short time, it staggers me. We were moving with the ball. Players were actually slowly getting into the groove of moving without it in a way that was actually productive. Although that's still a gripe of mine, because they weren't moving into spaces at the right time to create more solutions to those who had the ball at the time. But that's always kind of been an issue. It seems to have been improving last night, though. The passing was swift. It was quick. The defending was at times a little lackluster, but overall, very brave. I think the attack as well, considering the fact that we were a little understaffed up front, I think we did well. Algeria were brilliant, to be fair. Whenever Brahimi had the ball, it was lights out for anyone who tried to take it from him. Belaili was a beast up front. Akram Tawfiq did quite well to keep him at bay. And the game bore witness to 7 yellow cards and a send-off. I mean, it was mad. It's a FIFA Arab Cup game. It's not a World Cup game. It's not an African Cup game. All due respect to the Arab Cup, of course, but 7 yellow cards and 1 red card in a tournament of this nature, in a group game. The intensity that I mentioned in the games that preceded this are obvious, but this just shows you, if they actually face off in official competitions apart from this one going forward, let's say the African Cup of Nations in January, or the playoff to the FIFA World Cup finals in Qatar in 2022, things are going to get pretty aggressive pretty fast. Now, I think that Algeria's goal was quite lucky. It was quite a lucky strike, more so being in the right place at the right time, which is pretty important, so I can't really call it luck. Our penalty was rightful. We used the momentum quite well after scoring. We started to have belief in what we were doing. Kiosh's substitutions were on point. Bouguerra did a very good job actually rallying the Algerians. They've been undefeated for quite the long run now. Around 34, 35 games as far as I've been told. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And now they have to face Morocco. And we have to face Jordan. But to be fair, I think this game was the one game all of us were looking forward to for the longest time now. And I think it is the one game we expected Kirosh's results to show up the fastest. Although, you don't give a manager of any stature only 2 months to actually rally a team forward. And the fact that he's made some very important decisions in changing up his personnel, picking players no one really knew, and watching them gel together in the biggest game of their careers on the international stage thus far, I think he deserves to be commended for that. And I think the draw was a good result, although I'm not one to play for a draw. But it was good considering the circumstances, it was good considering the context. And hopefully we'll keep building on from that. Although I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to face them again sooner rather than later. Because, let's face it, you look forward to that kind of thing. You look forward to the rivalry, the competition, as long as it's healthy. Because we've seen quite a bit of violence take place between both teams, or both sets of people in general, both sets of fans. Hopefully we won't see that next time. And that's where I'll stop this video. I'll just let you all know that we have an Arabic YouTube channel as well. In case you didn't know, the link is in the description below. Our Arabic content goes on Facebook. The English content is on Twitter and Instagram. And follow us on our social media accounts. They're all listed in the description below. Excuse me for the exhaustion. I'm quite tired. And I will see you next time the whistle blows. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for watching.